You think you can handle raising an 11-year-old kid when you've never raised one yourself?
My brother, Michael, threw those words at me with a stern face. It irritated me a bit, making me feel like a child, but I understood his concern. He cares deeply for his niece. So, I answered him clearly. I'm an adult now. You don't need to worry, I think. Mary, Michael's wife, chuckled at my attempt to sound confident. My name is John Green. I have a brother who's 13 years older than me, brilliant, handsome, and brave enough to face any challenge. I also have a sister named Lily, 10 years older, who took on the role of our mother after she passed away early. Lily always showed me a kind face while handling everything at home. My father ran a local real estate business that expanded over the years, growing from a small operation to a large company. He was a self-made man who succeeded through sheer willpower, a strict and authoritarian figure who wanted everything his way. When I was a year old, my mother fell ill and never recovered. My memories of her are almost non-existent. To me, Lily was the face of a mother. Despite our mother's absence, my childhood was happy, thanks to my kind sister and a brother who, though strict, played with me. Michael bore the full weight of our father's expectations, striving hard to meet them. My father wanted him to take over the company and make it even bigger. Michael understood this and endured our father's harsh words. Lily, too, was expected to make sacrifices for the family. Our father planned an arranged marriage for her with the son of a promising business partner. It seemed old-fashioned to me, but my father had his reasons. Lily had a secret boyfriend, but my father discovered he was from a foster home, which made him unacceptable as a future son-in-law. So, my father decided she should marry his chosen match. She was torn, unsure if she should choose her happiness over the family's. As a high schooler, I told her. An arranged marriage? That's so outdated. You should choose your happiness. She laughed.
You sound like an adult, but thank you.
Lily, who always treated me like a kid, ruffled my hair and spoke to me. As I brushed her hand away in embarrassment, Michael, who had been listening, spoke up.
As long as you live in this house, you must follow Dad's rules. If you can't, leave.
His calm, matter-of-fact tone made my blood boil. That's not fair. She's really struggling with this, I retorted. Despite that, he left the room without a word. As I was complaining to him, she placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder.
John, someday you'll understand our brother's true kindness.
To me, he was second only to our father in strictness. Michael and Lily had been my heroes growing up, but now I feel distant from him. However, I would soon experience what she meant. Lily chose her boyfriend over the arranged marriage. She didn't need to sacrifice her happiness. Late at night, after our father had gone to bed, she packed her things into a small suitcase and prepared to leave. I saw her off quietly at the front door, fighting back tears to remember her happy face. As she gently patted my head and hugged me tightly, she whispered,
I wish you all the best.
Just as she opened the door, our brother appeared. Ready to fight, I was surprised to see him hand her a checkbook.
I've added a little something. Consider it a gift from me. You'll manage for a while. Take care. Don't worry about us,
He said. Lily cried softly, calling him.
Michael.
He patted her shoulder and said,
Don't ever come back here.
With those words, he gently pushed her out. I finally understood what Lily meant about his kindness. He never showed it off. The next morning, our father was furious when he found out Lily had left. Michael managed to calm him down, while I stayed silent, knowing my words would only make things worse.
Well, we still have John?
Our father said, turning his gaze on me. I froze like a rabbit in headlights. Michael intervened.
John won't be much help. He's planning to go to college out of state next year and wants to live on his own. He's always been independent, going abroad for homestays. Focus on my arranged marriage instead.
I was shocked to hear him mention an arranged marriage and gazed at him. Despite that, he spoke to my father with a smile.
You're right. Arranging your marriage takes priority.
My father's anger subsided as he turned his attention to Michael's words. Thanks to Michael, I was able to attend college out of state and live on my own. Meanwhile, he married his match and his wife moved into our home.
Can you really handle living alone? Don't keep coming back. Study hard.
Michael advised as he saw me off. I'll come back often. I joked, getting into the taxi. 4 years later, I joined an automobile company as a developer. My father was furious I didn't join the family business, but my brother smoothed things over, allowing me to pursue my career. 6 years into my job, I was offered a transfer overseas. With some French skills and homestay experience, I was chosen to work at a branch in France. However, I was hesitant and decided to consult my brother. He now takes care of everything for the family so that I can do whatever I want. That's why I wanted to get advice from him. Returning home, Michael's wife, Mary, welcomed me warmly.
Oh, John. Come in. Michael, your brother is here.
She spoke to Michael, who seemed to be in the living room. Hearing her, he came to the door.
John, if you'd told us you were coming, we'd have prepared a feast.
Though he beckoned me inside, I hesitated. Despite it being my home, I had been living independently since I was 18, defying my father to pursue my own career. The threshold felt high.
Don't worry. Dad's away on a trip. Come on in. This is your home too.
Michael reassured me. Feeling a bit lighter, I entered. It was dinner time, and the table was laden with delicious food, with his son eating. Michael, I have something to talk to you, I said, feeling nervous. He talked to Mary secretly and led me to the adjoining room.
What's up, John?
We entered a room next to the living room. As I closed the door, my brother immediately got to the point. Feeling anxious about how he might respond, I started to explain. I've been offered a position overseas, I began, my heart pounding.
That's great, isn't it? So, what's bothering you?
He asked, easing my tension. I've been chosen to set up a new department at a French factory. I might return to America eventually, but I don't know how long it will take. So, I wanted to ask if it was okay for us to enjoy our freedom while he handled everything at home, but I was scared of his response. He calmly replied,
If it's what you want, go for it. If not, don't. Even if it affects your standing at work, you won't rely on our family business.
His clear words helped me decide to accept the offer. Leaving the room, Mary called.
All done? Please sit down and have dinner with us. You must be hungry.
The steam from the pot looked inviting. Thank you, I'll join you, I said. The next day, I informed my boss of my decision, and a month and a half later, I flew to France. Surrounded by French conversations, my homestay experience from over a decade ago barely helped. I was nervous entering the French branch for the first time, sweating lightly. A colleague guided me to a room. I confirmed my French was understood despite my bad pronunciation. I became confident that I could succeed a conversation with him, and relaxed a bit. As I entered the new building, there were several local hires and a few people speaking in English. Among the staffs, one person stood out, Alice Wilson. She was chatting animatedly. I heard from a colleague that she is an American, but unfamiliar from the main office. Is she a local staff member? I couldn't take my eyes off her as I wondered. Noticing my gaze, she turned to face me. As our eyes met and my heart started racing, she spoke first.
Hi, I'm Alice Wilson. You must be from the main office in America, right? Feeling a bit nervous?
Her friendly approach immediately put me at ease. Yeah, I was pretty nervous, but thanks to you, I feel a bit better. I can handle everyday French conversations, but I'm worried about using it for work. She laughed softly.
You'll be fine. Once you start working here, you'll get used to hearing and speaking French all the time.
Since then, Alice had been looking out for me. At one point, I wondered if she liked me, but it turned out she was just being caring, wanting to help me as I navigated this new environment. Though, as a man and a woman, it didn't take long for us to be drawn to each other. We started going out for meals after work and she showed me her favorite places near the office on weekends. Gradually, we became a couple.
You know, John, I feel like I need to protect you.
Alice once said, making me a bit sulky. Does that mean you find me unreliable as a man? I asked, looking sad.
No, it's just that you have a way of bringing out my nurturing side.
She replied. Maybe it's because I'm the youngest child. But hearing that from someone a year younger makes me feel a bit unmanly. I joked. We both laughed. Despite my initial anxieties, Alice made me feel happy every day in this new place. I never doubted that this happy moment would last forever. The more happiness you feel, the deeper the despair when you lose it. I would come to understand this profound sorrow later. Just as I had settled into my new life and was enjoying my time with Alice, I received a call from my brother in America. It was the middle of the night due to the 6-hour time difference. Groggily, I answered. Hello. Hearing Michael's voice, I was immediately annoyed. It's the middle of the night here. What's up? For the first time ever, my always composed brother spoke in a trembling, tearful voice. He told me our sister and her husband had died in an accident. I was stunned, as if someone had slapped me awake. I replayed his words over and over. Did he say the name Lily? No, I might have misheard. I repeated that kind of conversation in my head. Michael, worried by my silence, spoke again.
John, are you listening? Can you come back to America immediately?
Yeah, I'll take the first flight back. I replied, hastily packing and heading to the airport. In the taxi, memories of my sister, who had been like a mother to me, flooded my mind. She was an irreplaceable part of my life. I thought about her Christmas cards, updating me on her happiness with her daughter. How could this be real? I desperately wanted to return to America and see her. Michael's words couldn't be a lie, but I wasn't able to believe it. Fortunately, I managed to book the first flight out. During the wait, I informed my boss and Alice about the situation. The boss didn't fully trust me and asked when I'd be back. I just told him that I'd return in a week and hung up the phone. As I boarded the plane, I remembered that since coming to France, I had only returned to America once for the Christmas holidays. I never imagined I'd be returning under these circumstances. Sitting in my seat, I looked up at the ceiling and thought of Lily's smile. After a 7-hour flight, I arrived in America and hurried to my house. I arrived just in time for the funeral and saw her face one last time. With no relatives of her own, Michael took charge of the ceremony. Mary stood beside him, holding Lily's daughter's hand. I immediately recognized the girl from the Christmas cards. At least the girl, Grace, was safe. That brought me some relief. After the funeral, we headed to the burial. When we arrived, I heard my father and Michael arguing. Uncharacteristically, Michael was standing up to our father.
If you won't let them be buried in our family burial plot, I'll make a separate grave for them. But remember, Grace is your granddaughter too.
Michael said, holding our father by the collar. Mary tried to intervene.
Don't be so arrogant. I don't consider the child of a daughter who abandoned this family my granddaughter.
Our father retorted. Seeing Grace standing nearby, he left quickly in embarrassment. Mary spoke to Grace.
The loud voice scared you, right? But don't worry.
Grace seemed softly crying. As Michael watched her, he got irritated with our father and scratched his head. He wanted to support her, but he couldn't ignore our father. He seemed to be struggling. Seeing him like that, I blurted out. I'll take care of Grace. She's our sister's precious daughter. Michael looked pained but quickly composed himself.
What are you saying? John, you have a job. Can you really take care of a child by yourself? You don't have any experience raising a child. It's not easy.
Understanding his concern, I looked him straight in the eye and said, I know. Satisfied, he said.
Mary, when we get home, please prepare rooms for John and Grace and let them relax.
We went back home, and Michael went to his room. When it was just the three of us, Mary apologized.
He doesn't intend to abandon Grace. He just has to keep up appearances for your father.
She said sadly. I understand. I know Michael's true kindness. I reassured her. I spent the night at my family house after a long time. That night, I slept deeply despite my jet lag. The next day, I explained the situation to my company and requested a transfer back to America to take care of Grace. The company understood and arranged for someone else to take my place, allowing me to continue working in America. I contacted Alice via video call to explain my decision.
Are you all right?
She asked, her concern evident from the first word. Then, I coldly broke up with her. Thank you for everything. Long-distance relationships aren't for me, so I think we should break up. She was shocked and tried to say something, but I ended the video call. I didn't want her to see me cry. My priority was Grace's well-being, and I couldn't drag Alice into this situation. Besides, I didn't have the courage to push a marriage on her with an 11-year-old child involved. It was better to step back than to cause her trouble. That was my decision. Even though she called me several times after that, I didn't answer. I felt terrible about making such a unilateral decision. However, I couldn't think of any other way. Living with Grace was awkward at first. As an uncle, I had no experience raising an 11-year-old girl. Grace, grieving her parents, did everything she could to help around the house, as if trying to prove her worth. One day, I told her, Grace, you don't have to try so hard. This is our home, and we'll manage together. Tears streaming down her face, she asked.
Can I really stay here?
My heart ached for her loss and uncertainty. I resolved to show her the same kindness Lily had shown me. Over time, we grew closer. I couldn't replace her parents, but I became a big brother figure. 6 months later, Grace entered 6th grade. I thought my memories of Alice would fade. In the middle of the night, after Grace had fallen asleep, would sit alone in the living room, feeling increasingly lonely. That's how I felt, but recently, she has been staying up late. When I come home late from work, take a shower, and head to the living room, she hurriedly goes to her room.
Staying up late again. Lack of sleep is bad for a woman's skin, you know.
I joked, not thinking much of it. However, I often heard her talking while I was in the shower. At first, I thought it was the TV, but it was clearly she chatting happily with someone. She didn't have a cell phone, and as soon as I got out of the shower, she would quickly go to her room as if nothing had happened. I figured that as a teenage girl, she probably just wanted to talk with friends. I didn't think much more about it. Then school summer vacation began, and on the first day of my company's holiday, I realized I hadn't made any memories with Grace because I had been so focused on work. So, I asked her what she wanted to do.
Well, it's hot outside.
She gave vague answers while constantly glancing at the clock.
Do you have plans?
I asked.
No.
She replied vaguely, just as the doorbell rang. She rushed to answer it.
Hi. Come on in.
I heard her say excitedly, thinking she had friends over. Though, when I looked, I was stunned.
Wait, what? Alice? I can't believe it.
There stood Alice with a large suitcase, hugging Grace.
How do you know each other?
I asked, bewildered. They laughed, explaining they had been in touch via video calls. The voice I had been wondering about was actually the two of them talking. Grace had answered a call from Alice on my computer when I wasn't around, and they had kept in touch ever since.
An 11-year-old worrying about an adult like me.
I was embarrassed, looking down.
I planned this because you looked so lonely at night. John, you can't let go of the one you love.
I invited Alice in. Seeing Alice for the first time in 6 months, she smiled at me with the same happiness as before. As I gazed at her, Grace called out to me from behind. In the kitchen, she handed me something discreetly.
I found this. Isn't it time?
It was the ring I had bought for Alice before we broke up. Grace must have found it.
This is.
Grace said with a serious expression.
Mom always said that being with the person you love is the most important thing. That's why she never regretted leaving. I feel like Mom is telling me that now is the time. It's like her final wish. So, please don't decide to break up with the person you love because of me. Honor Mom's wish.
Seeing her gentle smile, I replied.
Grace, this isn't because of you. I lacked confidence.
I said, feeling encouraged by her and Lily's memory. I finally spoke to Alice.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry for how I ended things. I wasn't sure I could make both you and Grace happy. But I want to try. Will you marry me?
I finally managed to say the words I couldn't say that day.
Yes, I'll make you happy, John. And Grace too.
Alice replied, calling Grace over.
Should I call you Mom now?
She asked hesitantly.
Whatever feels right. We're best friends first.
Alice said, hugging Grace. After much thought, I asked my company for another assignment in France. Though my boss was hesitant, an opportunity arose to return to France, allowing us to be together. However, my boss told me there wouldn't be a second chance. He told me that if I have to return to America again, the company can't guarantee my position. I stood tall and replied.
That's not a problem. I'm prepared to stay there for the long haul.
Alice had already returned to France after her summer vacation, but we followed her and left America in time for the new school term in September. Lily had left Grace in my care, and Michael had entrusted her to me. Grace, who has the spirit of my sister, brought us back together. Grace might be our angel. Even my father, once so stern, is now taken with her, showing a softer side I hadn't seen before.